Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Exploring someone's life story is kind of like cracking open a really good book. You never quite know what adventures you'll find tucked away between the pages.
Yeah, and in this case, I have a feeling those pages might include a few close encounters with some furry feathered and maybe even scaly friends along the way.
Definitely sounds like an adventure. I'm Hari.
And I'm Kimi, ready to turn those pages with you all and dive into the fascinating world of Gerald Durrell.
So we're taking a deep dive today into the life of Gerald Durrell. And I know you've been doing a lot of research on his early life.
Yeah, his childhood, his family, all those early experiences that really kind of shaped him into the writer, the conservationist that we know and love today.
That's right. And we've got a really great collection of sources to work with, too, from biographies to anecdotes from family members. It's going to be fascinating to kind of piece together this puzzle of his early years and see if we can spot the seeds of, the passion for the animal kingdom that he became so well known for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, his story starts in 1925 in India. He was born into this family of British expats living that almost idyllic Anglo-Indian life. Imagine sprawling bungalows and lush gardens, a real vibrant cultural tapestry. His father was a civil engineer, and while, his work kept him busy, it seems like young Gerald was already captivated by the natural world around him.
Yeah, even as a toddler, there's this wonderful story about one of his earliest memories, actually, that always stuck with me. It's almost foreshadowing,
Yeah.
his lifelong fascination with the natural world. He was absolutely mesmerized by two slugs he found entwined in a ditch. And I imagine that like this seemingly mundane little encounter sparking this, curiosity and wonder that would stay with him his entire life.
Yeah, it really speaks volumes about his, innate connection to nature, this draw to the creatures that most people wouldn't even give a second thought to. And, it wasn't just slugs. His family actually owned bear cubs for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, Himalayan bear cubs, or they were a gift from an uncle, a rather unconventional addition to the household, to say the least. But you can imagine how that must have fueled his, fascination with animals.
Oh, absolutely. Bear cubs in the house. I can
Yeah.
only imagine the chaos. But also, what an amazing opportunity for a young boy to observe these creatures up close, form those early bonds and maybe even start to realize that his heart belonged, not in the drawing rooms of colonial India, but out in the wild spaces where these animals roamed free.
Right, exactly. And sadly, his time in India, that idyllic childhood was cut short when his father passed away suddenly.
Oh, that's right. He was only 3 years old at the time.
Yeah, a pivotal moment in anyone's life, especially at such a young age. And while Durrell himself, later admitted that he wasn't as profoundly affected by his father's death as you might expect, perhaps, because he was so much closer to his mother and his ayah, who played a significant role in his upbringing, it did mark a significant change for the family. They decided to leave India and head back to England.
So from the vibrant landscapes of India to a more, structured environment in England, that must have been quite a transition for young Gerald.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't always a smooth one. He was enrolled in various schools, but formal education just never seemed to capture his imagination the way that the natural world did.
It's interesting how some people just don't quite fit in that traditional mold. They're meant for something different, something more hands-on experiential.
Exactly. And he thrived in natural history lessons, of course, but, often resisted those more traditional subjects, finding solace and excitement and exploring the world around him rather than, being confined to the walls of a classroom.
Makes sense. So instead of hitting the books, he was hitting the trails.
Pretty much. And there's even a story about him receiving a dog named Roger as a sort of consolation prize for a particularly negative school experience. So, a furry companion to provide some comfort during those early years in England.
Roger the faithful canine companion. It seems like even then, animals provided that sense of solace and connection that he just couldn't find elsewhere.
Yeah, they really did. And this brings us to, I think, a truly pivotal moment in Durrell's life, a move that would shape his destiny in really profound ways. In 1935, the family relocates to the Greek island of Corfu.
Ah, Corfu, the island that would become Durrell's, enchanted childhood, this sun-drenched paradise where he was finally free to roam and explore and immerse himself in the wonders of the natural world.
A place that would not only nurture his passion for animals, but really ignite his writing career in the years to come.
I mean, Corfu really was a transformative time for him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It provided that perfect blend of freedom, natural beauty, and intellectual stimulation that just allowed his, passions to flourish. And of course, this is where he meets a figure who would play such a crucial role in his development, Theodore Stephanides.
Yeah, Stephanides was really a remarkable individual, a doctor, scientist, poet, all-around polymath, and he really took young Gerald under his wing, guiding his explorations of the island's flora and fauna, sharing his vast knowledge, and really encouraging that, insatiable curiosity that would become such a hallmark of Durrell's writing.
It was a truly unconventional education, wasn't it? Not within the confines of a classroom, but out there in the field amidst the olive groves and rocky shores of Corfu with Stephanides as his guide, the island itself as his living laboratory. I bet those were some pretty unforgettable lessons.
Oh, they were. And they went far beyond, the simple identification of species or the intricacies of scientific observation. Stephanides instilled in Durrell a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of nature, for the delicate balance of ecosystems, and for the sheer wonder and diversity of life on Earth in this ecological perspective.
Right.
It became a cornerstone of his conservation philosophy later on and really informed his writing in such profound ways.
It's just amazing to think about how those formative years on Corfu, that immersion in the natural world, really shaped his voice as a writer. It wasn't just about scientific accuracy or detailed descriptions. It was about capturing the spirit of these creatures, their personalities, their quirks, almost as if he were introducing them to the reader as friends rather than,
Yeah.
Specimens under a microscope.
Exactly. And it wasn't just Stephanides who was influencing him during this time. Durrell was a voracious reader, devouring the works of naturalists like Fabre, Darwin Wallace, and White, immersing himself in their observations, their theories, their adventures, and you can really see these influences woven into his own writing. That same blend of scientific rigor and almost childlike wonder that makes his work so engaging.
There's one magazine in particular that comes up quite a bit in his biography's Wide World, a publication that was filled with these tales of exploration and adventure. And it really captured his imagination, especially this one article about an animal collecting expedition. It planted a seed, a dream of one day embarking on his own expeditions of venturing into uncharted territories to discover new and fascinating creatures.
And of course, that dream would eventually become a reality. But first, that idyll on Corfu was interrupted by the outbreak of World War II, forcing the family to return to England in 1939. It was a disruptive time, obviously. But even amidst the upheaval of war, Durrell's passion for animals never waned. He found solace working on a farm later, at a writing school, always seeking out those connections to the natural world.
So we're seeing this clear trajectory emerging, right? From those early encounters with slugs and bear cubs in India, to the transformative years on Corfu under Stephanie's mentorship, to this, unwavering determination to stay connected to animals, even as the challenges of war. But these experiences really laid the foundation, wouldn't you say, for the writer, the conservationist, the passionate advocate for the animal kingdom that he would become.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just about the experiences themselves. It was about how he internalized them, how he processed them, and ultimately how he channeled them into his writing. He possessed this unique ability to translate his observations, his emotions, his sheer joy in the natural world into words that just resonated with the readers. And that's a gift that was honed during those formative years.
It's a gift that would soon find its full expression as he embarks on his own adventures, those animal collecting expeditions that he had dreamed of since reading that article in Wide World. But I think that's a story for the next chapter of our deep dive. Okay, so we've left those idyllic shores of Corfu behind, and now we're stepping into the post-war world, where a young Gerald Durrell, brimming with passion and ambition, is about to embark on his own adventures, those animal collecting expeditions that had captured his imagination since he was a boy. It's a real turning point in his life, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, a transition from dreaming to doing, from absorbing the knowledge of others to forging his own path. And it all begins with a pretty practical step, actually. He lands a job at Whipsnade Zoo, part of the Zoological Society of London, eager to gain that firsthand experience, in the world of animal care and conservation.
This is 1945, right?
Yeah.
The war has just ended. I imagine there's this sense of renewal in the air, this desire to rebuild and maybe even reimagine the world. What was it like for him at Whipsnade? Did it live up to his expectations?
Well, it was definitely an education, but maybe not in the way he'd initially pictured it. While he loved the opportunity to work with these incredible creatures, he quickly realized that the reality of zookeeping often involved, a lot of mundane tasks like cleaning cages and maintaining enclosures, a far cry from that romanticized image he might have had in his head.
Yeah, I can picture him there, though, amidst the sights and sounds of the zoo, soaking it all and observing the animals, learning their habits, maybe even starting to formulate his own ideas about how things could be done differently. Did he ever, express any dissatisfaction with the way zoos were run at the time?
Oh, he did. And this is where we really start to see his conservationist philosophy taking shape. He was growing increasingly disillusioned with that prevailing attitude towards animals in captivity, the focus on exhibition rather than conservation. There's often cramped and sterile enclosures that just completely failed to provide for the animals' physical and psychological well-being.
Right. This was a time when zoos were largely seen as entertainment, weren't they? A place to gawk at exotic creatures with little thought given to, their welfare or the preservation of their species in the wild. Durrell seemed to have this different vision, though, a more holistic approach that recognized the, intrinsic value of these animals and that urgent need to protect them.
Exactly. And this vision would really become the driving force behind his own ambitions to establish a zoo that prioritized conservation education and, the creation of environments that actually mimicked the animals' natural habitats, a pretty revolutionary concept at the time.
But starting a zoo takes more than just vision and passion, right? You need resources, funding, a fair bit of entrepreneurial spirit, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And this is where a stroke of luck or maybe fate intervenes. When Durrell turns 21, he receives a small inheritance, not a fortune by any means, but enough to fuel his dreams of adventure.
So this is where the next chapter begins. The expeditions, those daring ventures into uncharted territories, the quest to collect animals for his future zoo, and, maybe just as importantly, to gather material for the books that would eventually make him a household name.
Right. His first expedition takes him to the British Cameroons in West Africa in 1947. A bold move, fraught with challenges from ship breakdowns to encounters with those seasoned animal collectors who initially dismissed him as a total amateur. But Durrell persevered, driven by that unwavering determination and this almost infectious enthusiasm.
And he comes back from that first expedition with a treasure trove of creatures, doesn't he? I remember reading about the hairy frog, a particularly curious specimen that really captured his imagination and would later feature prominently in his writing. It's almost as if his expeditions were as much about gathering stories as they were about collecting animals.
Oh, absolutely. And those stories would become the foundation of his writing career. He had this uncanny ability to, transport raiders into those remote jungles and grasslands to make them feel the heat, the humidity, the sheer exhilaration of encountering a rare and elusive creature in its natural habitat.
He publishes his first book, The Overloaded Ark, in 1953, an account of that first Cameroons expedition. And it was a huge success. Praised for its humor, its vivid descriptions, its ability to make animals the stars of the show, wouldn't you say?
It was a critical and commercial triumph.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really established him as this rising star in the world of nature writing, and it wouldn't be his last. Over the next few decades, he would publish a prolific stream of books, each one a testament to his passion for the natural world and his gift for storytelling.
So by the mid-1950s, he's a seasoned adventurer, published author, and still holding on to that dream of establishing his own zoo. But as we know, that dream wouldn't be realized without, its fair share of obstacles, both personal and professional.
Definitely the road to creating the Jersey Zoo was paved with financial struggles, strained relationships, and, that constant juggling act of managing expeditions, writing commitments, and the logistical complexities of actually, establishing a conservation-focused zoo.
And it's in the middle of all this that he's drawn to a rather unexpected location for his zoo, the island of Jersey, a place that on the surface might not seem like the most obvious choice for, a collection of exotic animals.
Maybe not, but for Durrell, Jersey represented this fresh start, an opportunity to create something truly unique, a sanctuary where his conservationist vision could really take root and flourish. And it's there in 1959 that the Jersey Zoo, later renamed the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, officially opens its doors.
A monumental achievement, the culmination of years of dreaming, planning, and sheer hard work. But the story doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't. The journey continues, marked by triumphs and setbacks, personal struggles, and professional milestones. His marriage to Jackie, his first wife, falters under the strain of their shared ambitions. But he finds love again with Lima George, an American zoologist who shared his passion for conservation.
And through it all, he never stops writing, does he? Publishing books, articles, giving lectures, appearing on radio and television, tirelessly advocating for the importance of conservation, raising awareness about endangered species, inspiring generations of readers to connect with the natural world.
He was a force of nature, a man driven by an unwavering belief in the power of education and conservation to make a difference. And his legacy lives on not just through the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, but through his words, his actions, and the countless lives he touched.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the life of Gerald Durrell, what stands out to you as his most enduring contribution?
I think it's the way he bridged that gap between science and storytelling, between the academic world and the public imagination. He made conservation accessible, engaging, even entertaining. And in doing so, he inspired countless people to care about the fate of our planet and the creatures we share it with.
Absolutely. He reminded us that conservation isn't just about data and statistics. It's about empathy, connection, and a sense of wonder. And maybe that's his greatest legacy, of all the ability to instill in us that childlike curiosity, that sense of awe and delight in the face of nature's boundless beauty and diversity, a legacy that continues to inspire and guide us today.